I am coming to you live, sharing my thoughts on this cult called Shirinko. Shirinko was founded in Japan in 1985 by Shizu Matsumoto. In 1987, Matsumoto changed his name to Shoko Ashara. And Ashara was born into a large and impoverished family in the Kumamoto prefecture. He had limited vision in one eye, but was considered legally blind, and his parents enrolled him in school for the blind. As soon as he developed a reputation at school for being a bully, and is said to have physically attacked other students and extorted money from his peers after failing to be accepted into a university, Ashara began studying traditional Eastern herbal medicine in 1978, and within a few years he was charged with practicing pharmacy without a license. Around this period, Ashara began exploring multiple spiritual perspectives: Taoism, Buddhism, Hindu religion, and astrology. In the early 1990s, Ashara published a book in which he declared himself to be Christ. He called himself the Lamb of God. Ashara announced that it was his job to take on the sins of the world, and that for this reason, he could relieve anyone who followed him in their sins. He also wrote a detailed manifesto outlining his doomsday prophecy, which included a third world war started by the United States. Matter of fact, Ashara claimed that only those who joined him in his new group would survive these end times. And although Shirinko was fairly controversial, it also attracted many highly educated, financially well-off people, and soon became known as a religious group for the elite of Japanese society. Ashara and his followers believed strongly in biblical prophecies, particularly those surrounding the end time. Their plan of salvation included spiritual healing to cure physical illness, positive thinking to improve intelligence, and living by ascetic practices. And so, however, as the years passed and a new Shirinko members grew disillusioned, word began to leak out that new recruits were being held against their will and forced to donate money to the group. A lawyer named Sumo Sakamoto, who had been representing families of cult members, disappeared in 1989 along with his wife and toddler son. And when those bodies were found 6 years later, authorities concluded that they were murdered by members of Shirinko. In 1993, Shirinko group began to secretly manufacture sarin and VX gas in a lab in their compound. They tested the substances on sheep, then proceeded to use the gas in several assassination attempts over the next year and a half. And in 1994, members released a cloud of sarin into the Japanese city of Matsumoto, killing 8 people and injuring 500. The targeted neighborhood was home to several judges who were sitting on the council of a real estate lawsuit, which was expected to go against their will. Unfortunately, police were unable to determine that the cult was being behind the attack. But in March of 1995, police were about to close in on Ashara and his followers for their role in the murder of Kayoshi Karel, the brother of a cult member who had escaped. Ashara was tipped off about the police investigation, decided it was time for a distraction. And on March 20, 1995, members of Shirinko, working under Ashara's orders, released a chemical nerve agent into the Tokyo subway system. The attackers brought liquid sarin, carried in plastic bags, wrapped it in newspaper, onto 5 separate subway trains during peak rush hour, and each individual who carried a packet of sarin also carried an umbrella with a sharpened tip. Once the trains arrived at predetermined stations, they punctured the bags of sarin with the umbrella tip, then departed from the subway, leaving the sarin to leak out into the train cars. Several of the trains continued on for multiple stops before anyone realized what was happening. And by the time the attack had ended, Tokyo's subway line looked like a war zone. It was all given over to this Shirinko. This cult was a dangerous cult. This cult was one that plagued our countries. This is my story, and hopefully this will give good information on this particular cult.